Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're discussing one-click provisioning for an on-premise install, which is only available starting from release 9.2.2.4. The name one-click implies that you click an icon and it installs, right? Well, that's a major exaggeration. There are a few new things you have to learn first, so your first install will take some time. But that being said, once you learn one-click, you'll be able to do an install in a few days as opposed to the time it takes for a normal installation. The first step is to generate the SSH key pairs, which will be provided to all the Linux servers so that our provisioning console can access all the other servers in our setup without a password for each. So the automation one-click is enabled by the SSH key pairs. To do this step, we need to download PuttyGen, which we can use to generate the keys. Here you see the process of generating the SSH keys with PuttyGen key generator. When completed, you'll have 4 keys: open SSH key, public key, private key, and public key text file. Now let's look at each server. Provisioning server first, which is the main server that does all the installation work. First, we download the one-click setup files, and this is a Linux server, so we do the basic Linux setup. In order to talk to our deployment server, we need WinRM Ruby package, and we use Ruby script to talk to the Windows server. Then we need to set up auto login into Linux using SSH keys generated previously. Finally, we install the provisioning server. If you follow the guide steps correctly, you'll arrive at this screen which shows the provisioning console is up and running. It comes with its own password, so next we need to set new passwords for the Server Manager console and the WebLogic server console. It will come back with this message if the passwords are changed successfully. Next, we do the database server installation. This is exactly the same as a normal manual database install, except in this case it must be a pluggable database container, not a normal container. Then we set up the auto login in Linux using SSH key so the database server can talk to the enterprise server without needing a password. Next, the enterprise server where your logic and security validation runs. These are the steps to follow, including the auto login to Linux using SSH key so the provisioning server can talk to the enterprise server without a password so the automation can happen. Now you have to install the WebLogic server manually and have it up and running before starting the orchestration. These are the steps required for the web server setup. Every decision and mouse click is included further down in the guide. Now we install the deployment server on Windows. All the other servers have installed on Linux and use the SSH keys for automation. For this Windows server, we must use WinRM, Windows Remote Management, which we enable using PowerShell. We have to make a secure connection between Linux and Windows to automate one-click. At this point, all our servers are ready. The deployment server, provisioning server, enterprise server, database server, our web server are all installed. Now we have to feed all these servers to the provisioning console in order to carry out the automation. So this is where we start the orchestration by clicking on Orchestrate, and in a second we'll be asked to provide the global settings. Once those are entered, we select a Quick Start orchestration and start with the database information. It is also here that we can indicate which path codes we want. To save time and space, we are only doing the DB path code. If you want to install all the path codes, you would add them here. Then the enterprise server, the web server, the AIS server, and the deployment server. Just provide the required information as spelled out in the guide. Once this is done, if your provisioning server is able to talk to all the other servers, you'll get this message. Only now can we do the long anticipated one-click to start the deployment. So let's click deploy. Next you will get the start deployment option. Once started, you will get a running summary of everything that is happening. You see the database install, then the enterprise server install, the web server, the AIS server, and finally the provisioning server talks to your Windows deployment server and indicates that provisioning is in progress. At this point of the process, you'll get a message that JDE has been installed successfully and is ready to use. After this, there are a few post-installation tasks. You need Visual Studio, and for the 32-bit client you need to change the import and export functionality because there's a bug, so you have to manually make that change. Next, you need to do a package build and deployment and then create a development client. After that, you do your health checkup, which is already enabled in this setup. So here you can see that ENT, IAS, web, and the database are all up and running. This guide also includes instructions on how to customize screens. If you have multiple environments, you might want to change colors for each one. Here we have customized the background color of our sign-on screen and the DB environment. This was a very quick look at the one-click provisioning for Linux on-premise installation. It's quite an extensive guide that provides step-by-step instructions with each decision and each mouse click laid out for you to follow. It also includes 3 calls of up to 1 hour each if you run into any issues with your install. The price of the guide is $4.99 USD, and if your time is valuable to you, it will save you the price of the guide many times over. That's all for now. Bye-bye.